starting the recording.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here. This is our monthly call. We're in September already. Everybody's likely excited for fall and cooler weather. And of course, if you're up north, you're probably already experiencing that. But I am in Tampa, and I'm happy if we're at 89 degrees versus 90 degrees. So if we're not hitting 90, I feel like we're getting somewhere in the cooler territory. I am the chair of the K-12 STEM Outreach COI. We have Janine Fenton with us. She's our STEM coordinator. I think we can go to the next slide. So we have our opening welcome. Today, Janine is going to talk to us about STEM outreach at public libraries and awesome opportunities we have there as we're entering into the school year. AwesomeCon, which Sammy recently attended. I believe Eddie, Janine, and Victoria were all there. And one of our STEM partners, Future City event. So we always want to, talk about local outreach, have art posts, talk about, their programming reports and support needs, because that's what we're here for, is to help you at the post level. Discuss some best practices and programs. We're still working on the COI webpage, so maybe a little bit of feedback on that will be helpful. And then we have our standing TME STEM Corner ideas and what we're going to do for future COI calls, because we like to get everybody's input, on that. So. I already said thank you for joining us and introduced Janine. We have our chair-elect, Josh Graham, is on the call. Well, Josh, you're still here, yes. And we have a vice chair for strategic alliances, which was my former position, and he had a training conflict, so he's not with us here today, but I'm sure he'll be with us next month in October. So now we're on the third Wednesday for our COI live call, and you are all more than welcome to join us for our executive committee for our chair, vice chair, and liaison positions on the second Wednesday, and we do a good bit of planning during those. So if you're available, please feel free to join us. We're looking for one more XC position, which is going to be for diversity. That's something that we've added this term, and we're going to be reaching out, to Sammy, to DEI, to try and, bring somebody in. But if you know of somebody that, has an interest in that area, or if you yourself have an interest in that area, please feel free to reach out to me or Josh or Jeff Leonard. So I'm going to hand everything over to Janine, and she's going to talk to us.
All right, thank you, Liza. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. I think that it's been mentioned before that I most recently was working for ASCE, but for 7 years before I started working for ASCE, I was a library associate with the Harford County, Maryland Public Library System. And my specific focus was actually on conducting STEM programming within a library setting. I also worked with them to figure out ways to circulate science equipment. So in Harford County, Maryland, if you have a library card, you can go in and check out a Lego Mindstorms robot kit. You can check out a Connects bridge building kit. You can check out a rock collection, a microscope, a telescope. Take them home for free, work with them for a week, and then bring them back in. And they have a set of over 30 kits at this point in time that can be checked out from the library. While I was with the American Society of Civil Engineers, I partnered with the National Center for Interactive Learning, and we had a National Science Foundation grant where we were putting engineer volunteers into public libraries to do hands-on programming with kids. So all this goes to say that I have a lot of experience in working with libraries, and libraries are a great outreach partner. A lot of times people are a little frustrated. They want to do outreach, and schools in their area might not seem as receptive as they would hope for. And I'm here to offer some suggestions about alternative places where you can conduct outreach that's really just as effective. There's actually research that shows that the average American spends less than 5% of their entire life in a classroom, and most of their science knowledge is picked up in that out of classroom time. Here in the United States, we have extremely good museums. We've got great documentaries on TV. We have excellent public libraries. And many public libraries routinely cover what we often call STEM programming or STEAM. And just a reminder, STEM is the acronym for science, technology, engineering, and math. I will alert you to the fact that not everybody knows what the acronym stands for. STEM for some people is like a mysterious subject that has appeared out of nowhere and must be taught by specialists. But sometimes if you just let them know it's an acronym and anything that you're doing that's science or engineering, it's all part of STEM. A lot of libraries and many schools as well, the people might feel a little bit more comfortable if you describe it as STEAM. They're afraid that, I guess they think of science and engineering as very unimaginative occupations. I think for those of us who work in the field of engineering, we know that there's a lot of creativity in it, and that's one of the things that we can highlight. So sometimes when you're dealing with libraries, you might want to get in the habit of using that term STEAM. Many public libraries actually have maker spaces in them, and this means that they've started acquiring equipment like 3D printers. Sometimes they have laser cutting equipment, things like that, in which people can use technology to, build their own objects. And I've already mentioned the kits that are, one of the things that I developed in Harford County. You can see here's somebody who is testing actually a retaining wall. I wish I had the picture that shows that all of those bricks are being held up. That's on top of sand that's being supported strictly by toilet paper. But you can see that libraries are no longer just that place where you have to go, shh, be quiet. We can't make noise in a library. So how do you partner with libraries? And this is really important. Again, these are tips and techniques that work not just for partnering with libraries, but also with any kind of an outside organization where you may not already know someone. First of all, find people within your post who have a relationship with that library. Maybe you yourself attend there. If you have kids or other people within your post have kids that already go to programming there, this means that the people in the library know you. You can go up and have conversations with them, and there's really no barrier. You're not a stranger coming in. In general, you would want to talk to the branch manager, the children's librarian, or the teen librarian about their interest in STEAM programming. If your post already does STEAM programming, you can say, hey, we already do this. Here's what we can do. Would you be interested in it? If it's something where you're looking to initiate something, talk to them about what their STEM programming needs may be. A lot of libraries, for example, may have a Lego program, and maybe they would like to have a little bit more structure to the Lego program. And you can talk about engineering and designing and building and the engineer design process as a part of a Lego program. And then you can come back to your post and kind of refine the ideas. One of the things that you should be aware of is that libraries plan well in advance. Libraries tend to plan their programs 6 to 8 months in advance. And so this is a great time right now here in the fall is a great time to initiate that relationship with the library and to start talking about what they want to do, either for February, March, April, May, or even into the next summer. They are picking their summer reading programs. Chances are very good that right now they already know what their theme is going to be for next summer's program, and they will lock in their programs generally by the end of January. There are two, quote, national summer reading programs, and I am more familiar with the second one I'm going to talk about, but as I was looking into this for the presentation today, I came across the Ieee program, which is used by more than 1,000 libraries in 36 states, but more importantly, it is what the Department of Defense base libraries are using for their summer reading program. For 2022, they already know that the theme will be Read Beyond the Beaten Path. And for 2023, the theme is Find Your Voice. So if you can come in and say, oh, what summer reading program are you going to use? Oh, you're going to use Read Beyond the Beaten Path. Maybe you've got people within your post who could do some sort of a program with kids, using GIS, compasses, what are some other things that might be unique to your post that kind of tie into that theme? They are not locked into this. It doesn't have to be something where that's the only stuff you could do next summer. But if you're able to demonstrate that there is a very logical connection, it shows that you've done your research and that you're willing to work with them. Now, Ieee is adopted by 9 states, and here it says it's used in 36 states. What that means is that the libraries can decide on their own which summer reading program they want to be a part of. Adopting one of these two programs gives them the opportunity to share resources. It's a cost-benefit thing. The other summer reading program, which is used in 41 state systems, is the collaborative, I have a misspelling on my slide, the Collaborative Summer Library Program. Don't tell them the librarians, I can't spell. And so this is one that's really used very, very broadly across the country. Their summer reading theme for next year is Oceans of Possibility, and they're focusing on oceanography. So that could be a really logical tie-in to maybe doing boats, bridges, foil boats, anything to do with water. You can also talk about water filtration systems. So this is a really good one for engineering. Very easy to see some connections there. In 2023, their theme is All Together Now, with a focus of kindness, friendship, unity. If you can think about how engineers work in teams, that kind of ties in. Again, it's not as tight, it's not as logical, but again, they don't require that their summer programs always fit neatly into their summer reading program theme. It's just a suggestion. And then in 2024, they don't know what their tagline is going to be yet, but they do know that they're going to be covering the topic of adventure. So that's really what I have to say right now about the public libraries. Does anybody want to come off mute and ask me any questions, or you can put a question in the chat? If you're wondering what kind of materials to use, you can really use any kind of hands-on engineering activities. And I'll be talking some more about those types of resources in future meetings, but discoverE.org has some nice resources. And I think that Liza is going to talk about the Tri-Engineering program from IEEE, which also might have some resources that could be used.
Hi, excuse me, this is Phil. Just a quick question. Are any libraries using any online book programs? My son is in 2nd grade and he uses Epic at school, and it's just got a ton of books. So our library is looking to provide that as a source of books.
Libraries often have ebooks and audiobooks that are available for download. The two programs that I'm aware of are Hoopla and Libby. I'm not that familiar with Epic, but that is a question that you can always ask the library. It's possible too that the one you described might focus more predominantly on children's books, because there are some online programs like that allow you to download ebooks or audiobooks that more specifically relate to children.
Yes, that's pretty much exactly what it is. They're more of an elementary age book. So there's lots of pictures and colorful things. And so, yeah, I haven't seen that from the downloads that I've made at libraries. The children's books aren't that great from the libraries.
I wouldn't know. I think it varies tremendously from system to system, how well funded your library system is. And you might need to ask them about what is available, because maybe you know about X, but you don't know about Y and Z that just aren't as well promoted.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm also going to report a little bit about being at a comic convention. At the end of August, the Washington, D.C. Post, in conjunction with Mid-Maryland and Central Virginia, and we were originally going to have some people also from the Blue Ridge Post, got together to have a booth at AwesomeCon, which was a 3-day-long comic convention in Washington, D.C. And you might kind of go, what on earth do comics have to do with engineering? Well, let's face it, folks, there are a lot of comic characters who are engineers. The Hulk, for example, Bruce Banner, Mr. Fantastic, and Shuri, the Princess of Wakanda, is definitely an engineer. We were there to talk primarily with people who were high school, college age, their parents, teachers, things like that. That was our thought about who our audience would be. We also knew we would see some elementary school kids, but we saw a very broad range of people, including folks who were in the military and people who were engineers and really didn't know about SAME. We had a 10-foot by 10-foot booth, and we had a backdrop, and we had some signs so people could pick their STEM hero, whether it was Shuri, as it is in this picture, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. I have to swear that the smaller the kid, the more likely they were to pick Hulk as their STEM superhero. We had some insects at one point that were provided by one of our volunteers. We used magic sand. So we had a variety of things that drew people over to our booth, and we were just constantly busy. Next year, when we do this again, my lesson learned is to have some materials about general SAME programs, because there was just such a broad segments of humanity and interest at the program. You get a sense of what our booth looked like. We had a poster related to the engineering and construction camps. And again, we were hoping for people to say, oh, you have camps. We also had a picture up that says, oh, we have scholarships. And we figured that those would be the people who were stopping off to talk with us. But as I said, we talked with people from a number of different age groups and demographics, and it was constantly busy and a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it. The Great Basin Post in Utah also does a comic convention, and I am so envious because they're able to bring in a cockpit simulator. I want to bring a cockpit simulator to something like AwesomeCon in the future. That, boy, talk about an interest magnet. That would definitely bring people over to our booth. But this is a kind of outreach event that is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. So does anybody have any questions about engaging with something like a comic convention or a maker fair?
Janine, this is Jim Worsham. In what you're saying there, what you're describing, I'm wondering if there's not some overlap that could be created between the K-12 STEM outreach COI as well as the college outreach in the sense of a student post. I know I'm looking at a younger demographic in colleges, but there's not some synergy and some evolutionary development that could be done there.
You're absolutely right on target, because there's no doubt that this is the kind of event that would be of general interest. We did try to reach out to 2 of the colleges in our area, but I think because of the timing of AwesomeCon, which was right at the end of August, colleges really hadn't reconvened, and yet people's minds were not on, like if it had been in the middle of the summer, I think we could have gotten people. If it had been later in September, after the colleges were back in session, we could have gotten some college students. But you're absolutely right. This is a place to bring in your college members and your younger members, because they are so appealing to that kind of demographic. Hate to say it, but my hair color is the wrong hair color to innately appeal to a high school student. Sorry, being honest. But let me go back. We did actually have somebody who was a graduate student, and she brought in the insects. And the insects were a tremendous magnet. And, Marina did a great job of being able to talk to kids, and again, very appealing to that high school college demographic.
And they had other STEM activities there as well. When I looked at the agenda, I know my college age daughter was being pulled in that direction herself. She was like, where is it? I want to go.
Yeah, actually, the people in the next booth over from us were from the Loudoun County Public Library, and they were promoting their makerspace. And then across from us, we had NASA, and across from NASA was the National Science Foundation. Behind us were the naval engineers and the FBI. So there was actually an entire science fair area, more of the real world science, not just the fictional science, that was built in as a part of the fair.
And that's not typical for a con event, as far as I've seen.
The science fair, as I understand it, is kind of typical.
Is it? Okay. All right. I must have missed that at other events.
Now, honestly, it would have been easy to miss this one. It wasn't the largest space. I mean, there were, I guess, 6 of us, maybe 6, 8 of us who were there. And this is the entire ground floor of the Washington Convention Center. So it's an immense amount of real estate and a lot of things to walk through and a lot of things to see. So it's, definitely something that could be easy to overlook. But that's why I wanted the cockpit simulator. I wanted a robot.
Right. That's a draw.
To bring in if we had had a robot, everybody would have known we were there.
I think it's a great segue, from kind of that, I love comic books to what am I going to do for my career? Look, I could be an astronaut,
Yes, and that's it. Kids like the inspiration. They want to know that engineers are creative problem solvers. The fact that we're there kind of shows that, hey, we have a lighthearted approach to some of this. And we were definitely able to reference very popular comic icons. As I said, the Hulk, the Beast from X-Files, Hank McCoy. He actually has a degree in mechanical engineering. So there are a lot of engineers, and there are a lot of bad guy engineers. I do have to say that there are a lot of bad guy engineers in the comics as well, but I just wanted to focus on the good guys. I think we did let people, that we had these signs that people could pick up and pick their, a statement that they wanted to make or a favorite person that they wanted to, was their STEM superhero. We did allow poison ivy in. But that was
Throw
about,
girl in there. Why not?
yeah. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about before I turn this over to Liza is to feature one of our STEM partners, and that is the Future City program, which is run by Discover E. Discover E runs National Engineers Week, but one of the major areas that they have is the Future City program. And in Future City, this is a middle school program where middle school age kids, most of them, okay, somebody wrote something in chat and I'm going to see what they were saying. Oh, bad guys need to be engineers in order to overcome the good guys' superpowers. I thought it was reversed. That good guys need to be engineers to overcome the bad guys' superpowers, like Doc Ock. But anyway, going back to Future City, middle school age students, usually with a teacher, but sometimes there have been Girl Scout leaders, Boy Scout leaders, get together as a team to research and build a city of the future. Each year there's a different theme, and the upcoming theme is about a city waste-free. So how do you recycle everything in your city so that you actually don't produce any net waste? That's going to be their engineering challenge for next year. They write essays about this. They build a segment of their city. They also build part of their city online using the SimCity software. And then they build a replica of their city using recycled materials. They're only allowed to spend $100 total on their the segment of the city that they build. Then they have to make a presentation about it. And you can see some of the judging that's going on here. Future City uses engineer volunteers in several different ways. Obviously, as the judges at both the regional and the national competition. And for those of you who are interested, there are both virtual and live in-person judging needs. Every year they need people to judge the essays. That's not something where you need to be there in person to do it. Last year, all judging was done virtually. So the kids recorded their presentations, they recorded their talk through of their model. I'm not going to go into all of the details about how they accomplished it, but this is a time of year when organizations like Future City and some of the other science programs are seeking out the mentors, the judges, and things like that. If you are interested in doing it, if you go to futurecity.org/participants, they talk about the different kinds of participants, and you can sign up for whatever role. 3 of these roles here, you're seeing educator, judge, mentor, and volunteer. 3 of these are ones that anyone on this call would definitely be able to sign up for. Every team must have an engineer mentor. And the beauty of the thing with Future City is, like, you don't have to start calling the local schools. You can sign up as a mentor and they will help you find a school that needs that mentor role. The judge can be virtual or live. You do score things like essays and live presentations, things like that. They have the rubrics. Again, I'm not sure, like, I live in West Virginia. I don't know that there's a West Virginia regional competition nearby. I could sign up as though to be considered as a judge, and they would welcome me for reading the essays. I've judged the national competition for the last 3 or 4 years, including last year, which was totally virtual. Then they also do need volunteers at the regional competitions for things like registration and lunch and, probably bag stuffing and all those things that we all rely on volunteers for. So are there any questions or comments about either AwesomeCon, Future City, the libraries. If not, Liza, do you want me to stop screen sharing and switch it over to you, or do you want me to continue to advance the slides?
We can switch. I have a question, and you may have said, is there a good sign-up period for the Future City event, or is it kind of all throughout the year?
This is the time for people to sign up. I think like the next month or two is a good time to sign up in general, no matter what role you're interested in. As a mentor, they need you now because they will start, getting their teams together, and really to be competitive, they need to work on this for several months. The regional competitions often take place in January, maybe into the beginning of February. So you can see that September, October, November, December is going to be a key and active time period for those mentors. The judges for the regional competitions are needed in January, February time period, and the national competition takes place during Engineers Week. So it's done really by February, by the end of February. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and allow Liza to take over control. Aye, Captain.
I think it wants you to make me a presenter again, it says.
Oh.
I guess it doesn't last. It's a temporary thing.
Okay. Yes, I do want to make Liza a presenter.
All right. Everybody's good there. So we've been working on our post points of contact for STEM, and we're still looking for every post to have a STEM post POC, point of contact, and then we would be able to bring them on the call and maybe discuss some of the things that you guys are doing at your particular post. What have you what has worked, what hasn't worked. That person could also bring stuff from our call, back to the post for your monthly meetings and talk about, some ideas for how your members can reach out, members that aren't, joining us for our call. So if you have a STEM point of contact at your post and you would like to provide their information to us, or if your post doesn't have a STEM point of contact and you want to be that person, these are all good things. This is all information, that we're still trying to gather together. And Janine, is this something that you're tracking also as part of your spreadsheet? I know you were going to each of the different post websites. And I don't know if this type of information is on each of the post websites, or possibly on some of the larger ones, but maybe not on some of the smaller ones.
Right. We do, for posts that indicate that they have an officer who fills the role of the STEM POC, that's one of the things that I can get from a report. Otherwise, I'm stalking you. I'm reading.
Right.
Or trying to. I'm trying to get through all of the different post websites to find out what kinds of things you're doing, because I find that our posts are often very active in STEM, but not necessarily directly communicating that to headquarters. And that means that sometimes people may have some great practices and information that they could share, but they don't know that somebody else might like to pick their brains about how to coordinate with something like Sea Perch or a rocket club or something like that. So my goal is to try to find out the great diversity of things that our folks are doing in STEM and then start putting together some best practices.
Yeah, and I think the calendar will help with that too, where, we're going to have a K through 12, STEM outreach coding on the national calendar where posts can, put their STEM events, and we'll also be able to put events like Future City and Facilathon and, some of our strategic partner events that we've talked about on this call. So this is a resource. I should have written down where I even got this resource from, but I get emails, I find stuff, and I take notes, and I have like a list of like 30 things that we can bring up on our calls and talk about. And I just picked this one for today. It's really cool. If I was more IT savvy, I could probably take you to the website and look at everything. But this gives you a breakdown, like for teachers, you could have resources for your classroom. As parents, we could provide this to teachers, some ideas, and kind of act to bridge that gap. Teachers have a lot on their plate, so they always would be welcome to us coming in and assuming that that's allowable in your state or will be in the future, and bringing in these resources. But this game section right here is really cool, just for trying out with at parties, or for students to go themselves and look at. If this is a really good resource. It sounds like you've used it before, Janine.
Yes, one of the things I also did was work with an IMAX film, a giant screen film called Dream Big, Engineering Our World. And we put together a group of 65 hands-on engineering activities for engineers to use in outreach. And some of them we got from Try Engineering. We also got some from Discover Ieee. We got some from PBS, a lot of different locations. So Try Engineering is definitely a very good resource if you're looking for, a hands-on activity. I think it is intended a little bit more for classroom teachers, so it's written in that way, but you can definitely find activities that are helpful to you.
And the website is tryengineering.org. I just posted it in the chat. James has given us some information about the Nashville posts. Looks like they have a STEM POC, but it's not listed on the post officer's roster.
Okay.
Does that mean you think it probably isn't listed on your website either? So maybe we could follow up on that, Janine.
Well, I think that's
yeah.
I have to check to find out who or how you indicate that there's a STEM POC.
Yeah, Chris posted a question, Chris Cutler. Do you have to be an IEEE member to get into the programs and resources? And you do not. It's free resources. Everything that I looked at was accessible. So, and it's a very easy to navigate website. STEM lessons and activities. Yeah, so you don't need to be a member in order to access this. One of the other things that we're working on, and we can always use, COI member feedback on this, is our COI webpage. This is actually towards the bottom of the webpage. and it's kind of like a bone of contention for all of us because there's so much information down here, and it's how do we organize it? I know Janine has been very excited about this, the prospect here. So we have national and regional competitions and events, STEM-related organizations like our strategic partners, STEM resources, which, I mean, the Ieee webpage I showed is just one of just hundreds of, STEM resources that are out there with STEM activities. And then we have our STEM corner reprints from the military engineer and an archive of our COI wide calls. So we're definitely looking at revamping the website a little bit ahead of the whole website being, redone. So if anybody has any suggestions, if they've tried to use the website and, kind of gotten stuck in a spot, or they're like, wow, I wish it did this, we'd love to hear that feedback. And, we definitely encourage that. So if anybody, has anybody spent any time on this section of the website?
Yeah, me.
Yes, I know you have. I know Josh and I have.
Well, one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand is, like, my thought is that if I go to an organization's website, and I'm a member of this organization, it's really a respected organization, that the resources that are there are probably resources that the organization recommends that I use. And a lot of these things, actually haven't been modified or reviewed in maybe 4 or 5 years at least, which we know, first of all, if it's a website, they may have changed things. Secondly, I was looking at this and saying, if I was an engineer, I don't know why I would go to, it's the first tab. I can't quite read it. There was a lot of stuff there that was about, like, national competitions. It's like, well, if I was a school teacher, this is useful to me, but it's not useful to me as an engineer.
Unless there's something where we can mentor, judge, or participate in some way, because I feel like that's why people are going to come to the page.
Right. So
like, what can I do?
Maybe we call it opportunities to mentor or judge. So we need to rename buckets so that people can figure out where they want to go, and to describe what the need for in terms of the volunteer role is, like the mentoring. There are, definitely a lot of science fairs and science competitions, and maybe they need the mentors and judges, just like we described for Future City. But we should call it that. So it put yours. And somebody's saying, how can I provide feedback for the web page? Contact me, contact Liza, probably both of us. I'm jfinton at same.org. So definitely tell us, I liked this, I hated that. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And I just put my email in there as well. There you go. There's Janine's.
So this was one of the things when I got hired, Eddie kind of tasked me to go through this and really look at it. I think that if you consider how people use websites, also, you can tell that there's just a lot of words on this page. And
yes, really, definitely, because this is a very small, you have to scroll for a long time to get to this section.
Yeah, so we need to revamp how we think about it. What is it that an SAME member needs? Who's using this? What are they looking for? Because you want to be able to go, boom, I'm there. Looking for that feedback.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, Will. I'm glad that you're looking at it for streamers. So, we look forward to your input on that. So, we do a STEM corner in the military engineer for each of the different issues. Janine was working on this issue, which is due today. So hope that's coming along well.
It's written,
And then
it's out for review from all of our camp directors, so.
great. And that's going to be an interesting one for all the camps, definitely. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that one. And that one will come out in November, December. So our next one that we have due would be for the January, February issue, and it's due November 15th. So what we're looking at for the January, February issue is international STEM outreach, and perhaps looking at, library liaison as well. So if you have any ideas for those topics or something else that would fall into, 2022, like what's coming up next year, we're only a few months away, however hard that is to believe. And then the next deadline after that would be the 15th of February, 2022. And we're completely open to suggestions on that one. We're always looking for ideas on future calls. So, if you know somebody that's active in STEM outreach, parents, teachers, nonprofit organizations, we go through a lot of our strategic partners and, resources of our XC team. So, feel free to reach out, give us ideas, put them in the chat, direct people to Janine or I or Eddie, Josh or Jeff. We're all kind of compiling all of this information. So I see another chat in here. It says Eric Tucker is the enlisted COI liaison. He is currently deployed and may be able to provide some non-traditional insight to international STEM issues. Okay. That's great. We'll reach out to Eric for that. We'll add that to my list. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, well, our next call is going to be in October. Dr. Nehemiah Mabry is going to join us from his organization, STEM Media, and we're super excited about that. In November, we are looking at an LDP project focusing on We Must Go to Them, our outreach to Native Americans. And we're trying to schedule 3 months out. We're still up in the air on December, so we're still working on that. But possibly how to do a community dialogue, that's tentative. It's been something that's been brought up several times, and we're still trying to figure out kind of how to, make that happen and where we want to take that. So, always looking for input on that as well. Does anybody have anything else? Janine, did I miss anything?
Not that I can think of. And I think we've had some great suggestions both in the conversations and in the chat. I will be transcribing these things, getting them onto the website. So if people want to come back and review the information, the link to the YouTube video will be on the website, and I will definitely forward the chat log to Liza so that we can then follow up on some of the points that were raised. Okay, great. No, that's all sounds perfect. And I really appreciate everybody, joining us today. I know that we all do a lot of virtual calls, so you joining us and fitting us into your schedule, means that you're dedicated to this topic, and that's what we need for our future engineers. So thank you again, and everybody have a great day. I'm ending the recording.